feeling obnoxious. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it.
It's going to be a great talk tonight. I'll be digging into the compendium of the Emerald Tablets. The compendium of the Emerald Tablets. Well, I took the Emerald Tablets and the Emerald Tablet singular because there's two different tablets. There's actually way more than that, but I focused on these two. So the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. Both of them are in this one book. And I broke down the tablets, the meaning, and the information, the science, the technology that's encoded into the verses so that everyone can understand exactly what was being said over 36,000 years ago. We're going to go into this topic tonight. We're going to talk about the UFOs in the Emerald Tablets, which is going to be pretty interesting because what it's going to do, it's going to show you that in ancient times, they are referencing advanced aerospace technology that we have now today. You know, I mean, there is no original idea. Literally, everything already exists. And everything is existing in the ether of space-time. In other words, every thought that we think, it goes out of your skull. We know this in basic science, classical physics. If you go to a doctor and they cut, you know, a brain surgeon, and they put an EEG on your scalp and connect it to a computer, they can read your brain waves. Why? Because your brain waves leave the computer, leave your skull and go to the computer. They go through the wires and go into the computer. The brain waves leave your skull. The brain waves, your thoughts don't stay inside of your skull, they leave. They leave as what? As waves of light. So at all times, your mind is always generating light waves, but light waves that are encoded with information. Digital bits of information encoded on the waves of light. That's how it works. So you are literally sending out information into the universe at all times. So your mind is always generating waves of light. Just like this cell phone, right? I have a cell phone here. This cell phone and your cell phone is connected to a tower. That's why they call it a cell phone, because cellular towers, these towers transmit a frequency called a microwave. What is a microwave? It's a wave of light, okay? You can't see the microwave, and thankfully we can't see microwaves. We can't see ultraviolet, infrared, you know, we can't see gamma waves. We can't see, if we could see all the different variations of waves of light that exist, we would be completely distracted. We can only see just less than 1% of the light waves that actually exist. Truthfully, we mostly only get RGB. That's it, right? Red, blue, and green, and combinations of those red, blue, and greens. It's pretty interesting. But these waves go out encoded with information. So this cell phone is connected to a tower that has microwaves, right? The data in the phone transmits out. It rides that beam of light, that microwave, it's a light wave. It rides it to the tower. It's piggybacking it to the tower. From that tower, it gets sent to other towers around, up into a satellite, depending on how far you are away, it drops it back down to a tower in your local region. And then the information that's encoded, the digital bits of information that's encoded into it, ride the wave down to the other person's device, and the device lights up, and then the processor inside the phone decodes the encoded piggyback message on the light wave. So we use light waves to send information because we found a way to piggyback the information on the wave of light and let it ride with it out. Look at the universe as a whole. Your mind is doing that every single thought that you think. You're sending information into space-time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every idea, every thought. So this is why I believe in the book of life. I believe in, which originates in the Egyptian book of the dead, by the way. The Bible picked it up much later. I believe in the book of life, which is also talked about in the Emerald Tablets, which is 36,000 years old. And the Akashic Records is the same exact thing. There's a record of every thought that has ever been thought of by every sentient conscious entity that exists throughout the entire multiverse. So when you sometimes say, oh man, I had a great idea, a lot of the times you just got on the same frequency of an idea that already existed and you downloaded it. Because just about everything has already been thought of and already done and already accomplished. We only rediscover these things. But we're going to talk about the fact that they're referencing technology in the ancient past. And this technology is literally technology that we today are calling advanced. Back then, this technology was advanced. Now what we have today is just catching up to it. Let me go to my book, The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. You know, this book was written in a time, not really the book, but the tablets were written in a time where Thoth says it's almost like a time capsule waiting for a new human to arrive to decode it and understand it. At the time that he wrote these tablets, the people around wouldn't have been able to even conceive or understand the meaning in here. But now we have arrived literally at the time that he predicted so many eons ago. And we are the people that have the capability of not only reading them, but also deciphering the encoded messages and understanding it here in this, what we call the modern era, right? Or recorded history. So Thoth is being spoken to by his father, Thoth, who's also known as Ea Enki in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. These are the same two people. And he's being talked to and spoken to about fulfilling a plan after a global disaster happened on Earth, which is pretty interesting, right? So I'm going to go in here and start off reading directly from the book. And Thoth said, speaking the word, calling the power, deep in Earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard and hearing, directing and changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting using the logos, until that great fire changed its direction. Over the world then broke the great waters. He's talking about deep in Earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard and hearing, directing the changing of the flower of fire. We're talking about the Earth's core. We're talking about the internal core of the planet itself. Right now, you're hearing in the news that the core of the Earth is getting ready for a reversal. Every so many tens of thousands of years, this happens. It's normal. It even creates a reversal of Earth's magnetic field. So right now, if you go out to any area where there's volcanic activity and you can get your hand on some volcanic rocks, some really old volcanic rocks, and you take those volcanic rocks and you check the position or the orientation of the atoms, if they're more than 27,000 years old, you will find out that the atoms are oriented opposite. In other words, north is south and south is north, meaning that the Earth's magnetic field is recorded in volcanic rocks, okay? And we know this is basic archaeology 101. This is what they teach you. But what's interesting about this is it means that the Earth's magnetic field, it flips every so many tens of thousands of years. On average, around every 26, 27,000 years, the Earth's magnetic field does a flip. Now, what's happening here in this current era, if you begin to research the Earth's magnetic field, you discover that Earth's magnetic field is actually warping and wrinkling in a way that's even letting a lot of radiation and cosmic rays hit the planet because it's bending in a way. And the magnetic north has begun to move. And where is it now? Magnetic north has now moved over Russia. It's actually just now beginning to pass Russia. So it's been ticking away as our magnetic field is preparing itself for a complete flip, south to north and north to south. This is what Thoth is talking about here in the Emerald Tablets. He's talking about something that we're experiencing right now today in modern science. You can Google this, you can look it up. It'll be on all the mainstream news pages that the Earth's core is slowing down and getting ready for a reversal, and Earth's magnetic field is overdue for a magnetic flip. Now, what's more proof of this? Look this up. The fact that airlines have had to rewrite or recode the numbers the degree numbers on the runways, because all airplanes travel through different coordinates for runway so they can align with the runway properly, right? They have to align with the runway. And even in autopilot, they begin to create that alignment. The plane knows what it's supposed to do, and the pilots, of course, know what they're supposed to do. But because magnetic north has been moving and planes fly based on magnetic north, not North Star, because they fly on magnetic north, they've had to rewrite the coordinates on runway so planes can make the proper alignment to land. Because if they didn't, planes would be crashing into the water, on other runways, not being able to land properly. This is how important this is. In this particular situation, it had caused a global disaster, or it was a result of a global disaster. Can you see here what happens? Shifting and using the logos. The logos is an energy, so the energy of the earth has shifted until that great fire changed its direction, until the earth's molten core flipped and went in the opposite direction, which creates what? A magnetic flip. Broke the waters. Here comes the global disaster. Over the world, then broke the waters. We're talking about the first occurrence of a great flood in recorded history on these emerald tablets, all right? Drowning and sinking, changing Earth's balance, until only the Temple of Light was left standing on the great mountain of Undal. So there's a mountain that's so tall at this time with a temple on top, and the only thing that was standing was the top of the temple. Everything else was completely covered in water because it had such a global disaster happened that shifted the oceans to move across the land in a way, probably had a pole shift of the crust of the earth itself, not to mention a pole shift of the magnetic field. And then on top of that, you have water being displaced in mass, and that mass then shifts and moves over the land, creating a global flood. Some there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. If you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the original and full account of the story of Noah, which made it into the Bible. They copied it from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is 6,000 years older than the Bible itself. Zuzudra is actually Noah. And you find that there were people, if you read the biblical version, and of course, if you read the original version in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there were people that survived this great flood. And it's saying it here in 36,000-year-old text, which predates the Epic of Gilgamesh and predates the Bible. Some there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. Called to me then the master, saying, gather ye my people. The master is his father. His father is saying, get your people together, get your crew together. We got work to do. We got to fix this problem here. So Thoth says, take them by the arts ye have learned far across the waters. Take them by the arts ye have learned. In other words, your blueprint, your architectural design knowledge, your language knowledge, your rebuilding knowledge, your everything that's needed to restart civilization. All of that which you have been studying and have been working on all of these eons, it's now time for you to implement that knowledge with your team. Take your team, get them together, and take them across the waters. He says, take them by the arts ye have learned far across the waters until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians. All of a sudden, we have a situation here where the people have gone from technological knowledge and wisdom to just basically almost cave level again, okay? He's calling them hairy barbarians, dwelling in the caves of the desert. Follow there the plan ye know of. Gathered I then my people, that's his crew, and entered into the great ship of the master. He entered into the great ship of the master. His dad said, you know what, take my ship. Take my ship and go take care of this business. Now this ship that he got into, it's not a ship that sails on the ocean. Listen to this. This is very important right here. One of the most important parts in the evidence of something that doesn't sail but flies. Upward, we rose into the morning. He didn't say we got into the ship and sailed out to the sea. He says upward. I don't know of any ships except for spaceships and airplanes that go up. He says, dark beneath us lay the temple. Beneath. He didn't say the water was beneath us or the ocean was beneath us or the sea was beneath us. He said dark beneath us lay the temple. The temple of where? The temple of Undal, where he just left when his father told him to go and take his crew. Suddenly over it rose the waters, vanished from earth. What are the waters? See, in ancient times, they call the upper atmosphere in the sky the waters. The area where the clouds are and above were called the waters. In the Bible, they call it separating water from the waters. But the fact of this, vanished from earth. They've actually left Earth's atmosphere. They've actually gone up so high that they've left Earth. Until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem. Now you see, very few books out there, very few tablets that you discover will reference Egypt as the land of Chem. We know that Egypt was Kemet, ancient Kemet, long before it was called Egypt. Egypt is a fairly new term given by the Greeks. But he said, fast we fled toward the sun of the morning until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem. And the people there who had been surviving and generations have survived, maybe 2 or 3 generations have survived, they're now, back to, chisels and hammers and hunting and everything else, right? They're not at the same technological level that they were before. Fast we fled towards the sun of the morning until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem. Raging they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. So he lands this ship. The people are like, man, what the hell is this? They're scared, they're pissed, they're a little worried, like, this is our territory. What is this thing? This could be danger for us. So when Thoth's doors open to the ship and they begin to walk out, the people of Kemet come running at him with weapons. They're getting ready to try to defend their land and their territory. They don't know if they mean have good, if they mean good, or if they mean bad intentions. So we're gonna attack. We'll attack you first, ask questions later, right? That's basically how humanity always is anyway. Everything we think is coming to kill us, so we attack everything. That's why the UFOs don't come and just land in your front yard, because people will probably go get their guns and shoot them right away. So this is what happens here. Raging they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Here's what happens. It's very interesting. Thoth says this: then I raised my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. So he has a weapon that is non-lethal, but has the capability of reaching them via a frequency. It's a frequency weapon. And this frequency weapon freezes them in their tracks and stops them from coming to attack. Now that's pretty interesting. We're talking about 36,000 years ago. This guy's got a frequency beam weapon that can stop a gang of people from coming at him. Now, we were supposed to be literally just, living in caves, right? Just living in caves at that time, using chicken bones and copper chisels to do basic stuff, right? Making spears and trying to kill rabbits for dinner and all that kind of stuff. But then guess what? This guy comes with technology, crazy technology. Let's take a look at this and see if we have this kind of technology in modern times. It's called the active denial system, right? It penetrates the skin 1/64th of an inch, causing the feeling similar to being on fire. And they have different types of active denial system frequencies. It's a frequency weapon where they can make you feel like you want to vomit. They can make you feel ice cold. They can put voices in your head. They can make you feel like you're in pain. All right, all these different things they can do with the active denial system. Let's take a quick look at this short video.
Marines and several other DoD representatives had quite the heated demonstration at Quantico, Virginia from the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate.
This is a military area. Move away from the perimeter. I say again, this is a military area. Move away from the perimeter.
Their new active denial system boasts a reach far beyond any other non-lethal system.
Well, it's a versatile system, and it has a range of non-lethal capability that we can't even come close to with any of our fielded systems today that are in our military forces.
About 7 football fields to give it some perspective. It can deter individuals on a military perimeter all the way up to a riotous crowd. All without permanent harm.
It only penetrates 1/64th of an inch of your skin. Goes very shallow into where your nerve receptors are, and there's no permanent injury caused by it. Very safe system. We built in some safety margins and training for the operators.
They even let any of the guests volunteer to test out its effectiveness and safety, including the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and Assistant Secretary of the Navy.
And Thoth said, "Then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis." Pretty interesting. Atlantis was a global civilization. It was not just a ring city, and I'm going to show you here in a minute. So then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying, "We were the children of the sun and its messengers." He called himself a messenger, and his crew messengers. He did not call himself God. Here's something very interesting now, where it gets really interesting again. Cowed I them by my display of magic science. So what he's saying is, when he says cowed, C-O-W-E-D, that's an old term, an old way of saying I confused them. This technology, when I pulled out my doodads out of my pocket, when I pulled out my watch and my cell phone and some other things that I had that had fancy buttons and lights on it, when I did that, it got them like, wow, this is crazy. What is this stuff, right? Until at my feet, they groveled. So these people at that point, when a more advanced being with technology meets a less advanced civilization, the less advanced civilization is going to immediately deify them and begin to pray to them, drop down, become humble, and so forth and so on. But check this out. He had magic science. Magic science translates as advanced technology. So he begins to show them his technological doodads that he had. And the people drop to their feet immediately. But guess what he does? He released them. In other words, he said, "No, stop. Don't drop down to your knees and grovel at my feet. Come on, get up. Let me show you what's going on here. Let me enlighten you. I'm not God. I'm a son of Atlantis and one of its messengers." He even calls himself a son of man several times in this book, which is what? Very reminiscent of the terminology that Yeshua, aka Jesus, uses in the modern day New Testament of the Bible, where he calls himself what? The Son of Man. Interesting. So he says, he released them. He told them, look, at ease, guys, relax. I'm good. We're on the same level. I'm just here to teach you something. Long dwelt we in the land of Chem, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the master. Remember, the master, his father, had given these commands to go there and rebuild the land of Chem after this flood. Go out there. So this took time. They weren't there for just a few days. They were there for a very, very long time, right? He says, until obeying the master, who while sleeping lives eternally. So his father is in the halls of Amenti. That's where he left him. These beings had these things called the halls of Amenti. There were several of them around the planet. Several of them. There wasn't just one, right? And so Thoth says he had his own halls of Amenti, which he had deep beneath the Great Pyramid, and they found those halls. His father had a couple of them. One is also in Africa, which I visited in person and have video clips of me there. He's talking about the fact that his father had put his body into one of the rejuvenation chambers in the halls of Amenti. In the halls of Amenti, they have these rejuvenation chambers. They look like gigantic sarcophagus, but these things weigh about 100 tons each, and inside of them is some type of technology. I've been to the one underneath the sands of Saqqara, right? And I've shown videos and photos of that at the Serapeum and showing these giant sarcophagus that were there. I've been inside of them. There's pictures of me on top of them. It's an amazing story, which is coming out very soon in one of my new episodes of Anunnaki History. But he puts his body, so he's sleeping, but yet lives eternally, because they keep transferring their consciousness from one body to the next. This was their secret of immortality. So, and I say in this book, magic science translates into advanced technology that was most likely small devices that he was already carrying like a toolkit. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt. This is the land of Kem. From approximately 52,000 to 36,000. 52,000 BC to 36,000 BC, he ruled over the land of Kem. At that time, the ancient barbarous race, among which he and his followers had settled, was elevated to a high degree of civilization. They slept in rejuvenation chambers for 100 years at a time as they astral projected and traveled amongst the universe. Sons of Atlantis. This is important. His crew that stayed with him for all those years, all those eons, building up the land of Kem. He now says, our job here is complete. We have reestablished a high level of civilization. We have reestablished a new golden age in the land of Kemet. This is before the dynastic era even begun. Long before the dynastic era it had even begun. He says this, I sent from you the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time, wisdom might rise again in her children. Long dwelt I in the land of Kem, doing great works by the wisdom within me. So he stayed there. He stayed in the land of Kem while he sent his crew and spread them out all over the planet. Thoth sent his crew to all continents to kickstart new civilizations based on the same basic architecture and sciences. These Atlanteans were global, and each ruler put a genetic marker on their humans, which created the different races we have today. Atlantis was not a ring city only. A ring city, the ring city that sunk in the Atlantic Ocean, was just one capital of many capitals that existed on Earth at that time. Anywhere you are right now in the world watching me speak, you're sitting directly or standing directly on top of Atlantis right now. This Earth was literally Atlantis. Another Bible verse, apparently copied from much older text, seems to resonate with the words of Thoth, is Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. It's the same, he's saying the same thing. He's saying the same exact thing. And I do these comparisons between biblical text and Thoth's words, and you can see that in the modern day Bible, a lot of the New Testament, it comes directly from the Emerald Tablets. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Kem. Now, Kem is interesting because that's where you get chemistry and alchemy. They come from the land of Kem. That's where it originated. The land of Kem is where you get alchemy and chemistry. And after that, the Greeks and the Romans and everybody else, they learned directly from the Kemites. Watered by the rains of my wisdom, blasted I then a path to Amenti, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age as a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Kem, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. We're talking about ancient tablets that were not written by a scribe. See, in ancient times, 80% of the tablets and texts and scrolls that exist were written by a scribe. So we're talking about an advanced civilization here that is rebuilding a place long before the dynastic era of Egypt. The dynastic Egyptians, this is going to be hard for you to grasp. The dynastic Egyptians inherited what was already there. Thoth said, "Builded I the great pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, so that it too might remain through the ages." He built the great pyramid. Now, he didn't build it with his physical hands. He instructed and taught the Kemetic people his advanced building techniques using his technology. He had the blueprint though, and his blueprint can be found all over the planet. Anywhere you go on Earth, you're gonna see the blueprint from Egypt everywhere, the land of Chem, everywhere. Because remember, the people that he had as his crew, they stayed with him for eons, and then he said, now go. Now go and spread out all over the planet and duplicate what we did here. We're branded. Every single person on this planet has a genetic brand on them. You're branded. The people that ruled over different regions of the planet, the people that ruled over the lands of Asia, the people that ruled over the European lands, the people that ruled over the lands of the Americas, different races of people that came with Thoth the Atlantean that didn't put a genetic marker. So these are my people. Don't you dare touch my people. They can be identified as my people. Flash forth my soul through infinity's beauty. Far through space, I flew with my thoughts. Rested out there on a planet of beauty, strains of harmony filled all the air. Shapes were there, moving in order, great and majestic as stars in the night, mounting in harmony, ordered equilibrium, symbols of the cosmic, like unto law. Many of the stars I passed in my journey, many of the races of men on their worlds. We're talking about multiple planets with multiple races of men, many races of men. Not one race, many races. Some reaching as high as the stars of the morning. In other words, some reaching golden age level, high spirituality, high technology. Some falling low in the blackness of night, some collapsing civilizations. Each and all of them struggling upward, gaining the heights and plumbing the depths, moving at times in realms of brightness, having glimpses of greatness in them, right? Living through the darkness, but trying to gain the light. Isn't that where we are right now? Isn't that where we are right now as a civilization? As a civilization right now, this exact moment, this is exactly where we are right now. Struggling upward, getting the heights, and plumbing the depths. We rise up, right? We then, hey, this is great, we're doing okay. And then some crazy stuff happens and we go back down again. Isn't that right? Each of them all struggling upward, getting the heights and plumbing the depths, moving at times of realms of brightness, living through the darkness, gaining the light. So even though we're living in a lot of darkness, we are gradually still gaining light. Like I said before, what's interesting about darkness and light is this. You have to understand a couple things. This room right now is full of light, so much light that my forehead is glowing, right? And there's no amount of darkness that I can inject into this room that will make this room dark. Light is just that powerful. It's just that powerful. But if I turn all these lights off and make it pitch black in here and just get the cell phone light in my camera on my phone and turn it on, the darkness will flee instantaneously from the light. You see? In the end, the light always wins. And in the end, men are always trying to seek the light. As a whole, more people want light than darkness. This is a fact. The darkness stands out because the mind is attracted to seeing the darkness. You're gonna see the things that are dark faster and recognize them faster than you will of the light. That's the way our minds are programmed, because we have this reflex system in us to make sure that we're not killed, attacked, or hurt, or injured. It's a protection mechanism. So we identify the threat instantaneously anywhere. And so darkness stands out like a beacon for us because, oh man, what's going on over here? I got to pay attention to this. It's a threat to my existence, right? But light is still all around us, everywhere you turn. Know, O man, that light is thine heritage. Know that darkness is only a veil. Sealed in thine heart is brightness eternal, waiting for the moment of freedom to conquer, waiting to rend the veil of the night. There's a moment that we're coming to that we're going to have to address the darkness that we see before us on a daily basis, and that we will begin to extinguish it and remove it from our lives, starting with ourselves, removing the darkness from our own hearts and letting that become the new conscious virus and spreading that type of consciousness virus throughout the planet. Everyone first removing the darkness from their own hearts and then having unconditional love for one another. Light is your heritage. In other words, light, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, love is your birthright. It's your birthright. The problem is when we're born, like you heard me say so many times, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and you spend the rest of your life defending a false identity. You truly never know who you are. You have no clue who you are. It's your duty and your job now to seek the light and to live now. Your experience here in the third dimension, in this corporeal body, as a sentient human being, is a version of you as God walking in the flesh to experience life from that perspective and gain wisdom and knowledge and understanding for a period of time. It's a fractal of a moment. It's not even, living for 100 years, even living for 150, even living for 1,000 years is less than a blink of an eye on geological timescales. We're not even here that long. It's boop, you're gone. Open shall be the path to a Amenti. Fast fled we then on the wings of the morning. Fast fled we on the wings of the morning, fled to the land of the children of Chem. They left the Lord, the previous verses, they were at the dweller's place. They were on a whole different place on the planet. And they hopped in their bird wings and they flew. All right, they got back to the land of Chem. There by my power I conquered and ruled them. He's talking about the fact that he helped raise them up to a high level of civilization. And not only that, he began to rule over them for about 16,000 years, keeping them in point, keeping them on check. Raised I to light the children of Chem. Deep neath the rocks. This is interesting here. Deep neath the rocks, I buried my spaceship, waiting the time when man might be free. He's talking about he buried it underneath the Sphinx. Over the spaceship, erected a marker in the form of a lion, yet like unto a man. That's the great Sphinx. There neath the image rest yet my spaceship, forth to be brought when need shall arise. In other words, when there's a need for this ship, it's there to be brought forth. It's there to be used and taken from underneath the Sphinx. UFOs and the Emerald Tablets. You see, the Great Sphinx, mainstream, it keeps trying to tell people that it used to be a lion's head on it. It never had a lion's head on it. It never, ever, ever had a lion's head on it. The Sphinx's head originally was the head of Thoth the Atlantean. In ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets, he was called Nigazita. And his father, Enki, said, build the Sphinx and aim it at Leo, because that was a time and era that Thoth had the ability and the right to rule, and put your face on it. So the original face of the Great Sphinx was actually Thoth's face. Thoth the Atlantean priest king, his face was on the Sphinx. At a time when him and his brother continued to have these internal battles, his brother was Marduk. Marduk is in the Bible. Marduk is in the Torah. Marduk is in the Jewish library. He's also known in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where his name is also Amun-Ra. Marduk and Thoth were brothers having internal battles. Marduk was extremely evil. and wanted to really masquerade as a god. He really wanted to be a god, and he forced people to worship him and pray to him and everything else. He was having, because of this, he was going head to head with Thoth. Enki said, look, Thoth, I tell you what, man, I'm tired of stopping these fights between you guys. You go to the other side of the planet, go work over there in the Americas, in Mesoamerica, and kickstart a new civilization over there. So Thoth took, according to the Sumerian tablets, Africans, the Olmecs. He took the Olmecs with him, and he went over to Teotihuacan long before Christopher Columbus was even born. We're talking about thousands of years ago. And he built the Teotihuacan civilization in Mesoamerica, all up through Teotihuacan, down into Tulum and Tula, and all the way down into Chichen Itza in the Yucatan Peninsula. And the evidence of this is that the Teotihuacan pyramids are an exact identical copy and orientation of the Great Pyramids at Giza. Even the Pyramid of the Sun, which represents the Great Pyramid in Teotihuacan, the base of the pyramid is the exact same dimensions of the pyramid that Thoth built in Egypt. And he says, build it out of the Great Pyramid. So he built the Great Pyramid, took the same exact blueprint, built the same exact system over there in Teotihuacan. The Pyramid of the Sun is exactly 50% the height of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Also another strange coincidence. And both are built on top of aquifers, and both pyramid systems align with the Orion star system. Know ye, O man, that far in the future, invaders shall come from out of the deep. He's not talking about the deep water. He's talking about deep space. Then awake ye who have wisdom. Bring forth my ship and conquer with ease. Deep neath the image lies my secret. Search and find in the pyramid I built. Each to the other is the keystone. Each the gateway that leads into life. Follow the key I leave behind me. Seek the doorway to life shall be thine. Seek thou in my pyramid. I've been to the Great Sphinx several times. I've been in shafts that go underneath the Great Sphinx. And so check this out.
So this is called, a side experiment. It's called seismic tomography. With seismic tomography, you can test for spaces.
This is one of those non-invasive technologies that I was referencing.
Right. So the seismic tomography experiment was they were listening here and then hitting the surface around the Sphinx, right? And they were describing several areas that could be voids. Okay. One of those voids, which we all think is probably the most likely candidate for the quote-unquote quantum record, starts something like here, extends forward by 12 meters, and then 9 meters to the side. It's a big place. And Schock and Dubecki concluded that the signal actually is fairly regular in terms of, right angle corners, sharp edges. So they think this is a man-made chamber about 5 meters below us. It's full of water, most likely because the groundwater level comes up to about 5 meters. So, but according to my reconstruction under the Sphinx, this archive was breached. This is not sealed, which is what Edgar Casey said. I think and I have evidence for it, right? So I think this archive was breached a long time ago. The content was removed, and it ended up in Hermopolis.
We have evidence here, at least in a written form, that people in ancient times had information or foreknowledge of spaceships, of an invader coming from deep space, of a need to use a ship that's buried to be able to defend Earth against these invaders, according to this text. This is pretty interesting stuff, pretty deep stuff. We have a being that has a capability of traveling to different planets and watching civilizations rise and fall. You know how long that takes? To watch a civilization rise and then fall? To observe many races of men on their worlds, rising to the heights and plummeting to the depths?
Boxes, I cannot fit in the box. actions. Stop it, stop it. Quitting was never an option. Exhausted, exhausted. This passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it. Nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option.